All right, welcome everyone to TAM Lab number 80. Today we are excited to have Shaina Dhir joining us. She's going to be going through an overview of VMware Workspace One Intelligence. So we're happy to have her joining us. One slide here before I hand it over to Shaina is just a reminder, Adobe Flash Player is going end of life December 31st of this year, 2020. So there are some potential impacts to some of the products that you may have running in your environment. So be sure to work with your TAM. And we actually just published a nano TAM lab that covers this topic. So I'll put a link here as well. But with that, I will stop my sharing, and Shaina, I'm going to hand it over to you. Feel free to take it away.
Thanks, Dave. Give me a second. I'll just share my screen. All right. Do you guys see my screen?
Yep.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining. As Steve mentioned, we'll talk about Workspace One Intelligence today. We'll quickly dive into a few items, few details around what to expect from the product, and then few VMworld announcements. So as most of you would know, that Workspace One Intelligence is a cloud service that comes on top of the unified endpoint management solution. And then it has been designed to aggregate and correlate the data from multiple sources in order to give complete visibility into the entire environment. It is also capable of providing deep insights, analytics, and automation for the entire digital workspace. And these capabilities pretty much enhance the entire digital workspace experience and strengthen the security across the environment. Workspace One now also, the Workspace One Intelligence also integrates with a number of key products now, be it access for identity, capturing app data, threat detection, and remediation processes, and so forth. So today we will focus on these 4 items from a Workspace One Intelligence standpoint. If you have seen the portal before, you would know that there are dashboards, reports, integrations, and automations. A lot of these items are correlated. They overlap each other when we are looking into data analytics. So we'll go through that in a bit. Before we get into the demo, I just wanted to quickly go through the Workspace One Intelligence key VMworld announcements. One of the key things that came up was the Digital Employee Experience Manager. How it works is that it provides rich user experience analytics and enables the IT teams to have visibility of their entire digital workspace. In addition to that, it also helps in flagging issues early on. It does use the Windows OS and native applications, can provide performance stability metrics and also remediation plans. You can also track and improve the app adoption and engagement of the application as a part of this capability. There is an option of SDK integration for mobile apps to capture user data for in-app usage details and engagement tracking. From a security standpoint, it is now possible to create alerts for anonymous activities, identity security with Workspace One access integration, as I mentioned. And then there is now also an ability to enforce conditional access policies. How it works is that you integrate with the Workspace One access, and then based on the user risk scores that are calculated in Workspace One Intelligence, and then on the basis of that, you can identify if you need to control the access of that particular user. Also, Workspace One Intelligence is now capable of identifying if a device is missing a critical patch, tracking of common vulnerabilities, and then what kind of exposure the device is having. From a cross-platform vulnerability management, there are some out-of-the-box dashboards that are available, as you would see in the screen as we go forward. And then there is alerting automation that will support both Windows 10 and Mac OS right now, and eventually more mobile platforms are coming up. And how this will help is that this will allow the IT operations and the security operations teams basically to work better together and identify and mitigate the vulnerabilities. So this is pretty much in a nutshell what came up in VMworld and what are the new enhancements in the product. And we'll quickly move to the demo. Do you still see my correct screen?
Yep, looks like test drive.
Yes, perfect.
Yep, looks good.
So considering Workspace One Intelligence pretty much is built on top of the UEM console, and all the analytics is coming in from the console, the endpoints and everything related to that. So the best bet if you are trying to test it out or play around with the technologies to use Test Drive, because it has an underlying UEM console with all the devices in it. So if you have Test Drive access, just hit on the Workspace One UEM. It'll launch. It will launch the UEM console. Make sure you have the correct administrator role. So either you can have the intelligence administrator or just the console admin as a whole, and you should have access to intelligence. Sometimes you may not see this here. You will have to sign in or launch the intelligence integration, start it up, and then the intelligence part will start showing up here. Once you have that, you just hit launch and the portal will spin up. I am today going to toggle between two portals. This one is on the basis on top of the test drive, and then I have a UAT environment where we'll be doing a little bit of the integrations and stuff. So just getting to here at the moment, the intelligence portal has changed a little bit since the past. As when you get in here, you see different items from an enablement standpoint. Here you can go into documentation and see how you can automate items, what exactly is the digital employee experience, and what all is new from a security standpoint. From an IT admin standpoint, if you are using Workspace ONE Intelligence, the first thing you will come and see is the dashboards. What the dashboards are is a list of all the so-called reporting or analytics that are available to you, wherein you can track and see all the device related information, user related information, app related information. There are some pre-built dashboards here, which we'll go into one by one. Starting with the devices, as you can see, there is a mobile device dashboard, a desktop device dashboard, all the details around the number of the enrolled devices, active devices, inactive devices. If you are managing a UEM environment, I'm sure you are familiar with the organization groups, how the split up is looking internally in each of them, and then the device ownership in there. We spoke about the digital employee experience as part of the key VMworld announcements. So the major thing there, the desktop device dashboard, if we go in there, this is pretty much what that talks of, wherein it gets you the capability of going more into granular details as to what each of the Windows devices are doing. So from an active device standpoint, inactive, if there are any OS crashes, what has been the typical ownership, what model are each of those using, and then the enrollment and unenrollment events. But the key things that come into play here are the performance and errors. It gives you the capability of actually seeing what kind of risk level was identified. Was it a warning, or was it a critical error there? And you can go into each of those to actually see the time intervals that each of them happened, when it happened, or where it happened, everything. And going more into detail there, you can see what kind of an event it was, the device details, models, and so forth. Again, depending upon where your IT team wants to be or what kind of information or reporting they are trying to work through, you do have the option of going way more granular than what was available on the screen before. So depending upon what the requirement is, you can add more details to see what is happening and where it's happening. So you'll see more details as and when we add the additional columns. Now, this is on top of test drive. It is a sandbox, but if it was an actual environment, you would see more information here pertaining to each of these items. And then going back into the desktop again and going into the errors. This gives you more details on what kind of errors are encountered on a device, what model it is, what OS version, what kind of crashes happened, and then if same as the performance piece, go more into detail and see what kind of an event it was, what device it was targeting, the time, and everything, and also gives you the option of editing the columns as per your requirements. So that's one of the key areas from a digital employee experience manager that came up from a desktop standpoint. We'll move over to the apps now. Um, there is collection on different kind of apps here. So the mobile apps, the desktop apps. We'll come to the SDK in a bit, and then the web apps. It gives you a thorough information around what kind of platform, what are the top 10 apps being used, what are the total launches and web applications, when and where they were launched, and you can see the dates, the trends in each of them, how far it goes, what time it is, and stuff like that. And same goes for the Windows applications. And then there is also an option of tracking the errors, same as before. So it's pretty useful if you're trying to identify from an app trend standpoint what's happening. If there are crashes, if you are trying to push adoptability of a particular app, see how many users are using it, how many times it was launched, and if at all a particular app is encountering a number of errors, through this dashboard, you can come in and see what, when, how, and what time it's happening, and we can work on the remediation on the basis of that. We go to the intelligence SDK apps real quickly. So as I said, there is also an option to track and improve the app adoption and engagement of the applications. So the SDK integration for mobile apps gets you the user data from the apps and for in-app usage details. The way it works is that the Workspace One Intelligence SDK feeds Apptelligent by VMware data to Workspace One Intelligence, and then it displays and analyzes those results. Apptelligent by VMware captures all the event data and key user flows and applications, and then eventually it tracks the metrics and helps improve the applications, and again, track each of those release by release and focus on the problems.
Super quick question. Do you know, is this kind of limited to like, you know, the work profile versus the personal profile, maybe like on an Android device?
It is. I mean, it depends what kind of profile you're using or what kind of enrollment you have on the Android. And on the basis of that, you can get the analytics.
Okay, great.
So going in here, again, we'll get into one of these SDK apps to see the adoption, as I was saying. So it shows you the active users, monthly active users, the number of app loads, the application installs, how many, what version, how many devices or users installed it. Same goes to the updates where each of the users are and how far along they are in, say, the past 30 days, depending upon how much information you need. So it's pretty cool if from a user or a user experience standpoint, because if you're trying to, as a company, trying to increase the adoption of an application or just see the trends, this is a good idea there. Same goes for the user flows. Just in the interest of time, won't go in detail. But yeah, you have the user flows tracking, networking insights here. And then the crashes being the most important piece that you do want to track and see like what OS versions are the errors are happening, the device models and the app versions in there. And then also see if there were any exceptions that were handled and what exactly was the error, the users affected, and when exactly it happened. A number of these items can be automated. Once we go into the integration and automations, I'll show you how you can automate these and trigger actions on the basis of errors. Just quickly going to user risks now. The high user risk, medium, and low risk are pretty much identified on the basis of where the devices are from an update standpoint, if they have had crashes, if they haven't synced in a long time. So this pretty much tracks that, again, going into more details from a timeline standpoint, and see.
Do you, this is, some of this information is really great. Do you see the group that is kind of, mainly maintaining this system, sharing this, the portal with security teams and application teams, so that they can go and take actions, or is it kind of driven here and then they funnel it out?
So typically what I've seen is that the teams that you just mentioned, they can have people as admins in here to track all of these, right? From a security standpoint and adoption standpoint. Funneling, in certain cases, funneling is an option that you can just get the data out here and identify what makes sense to the customers. But giving an admin access to each of those teams is pretty helpful, because the way each of those teams are working this information is critical to all of them. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Cool. For some reason, I cannot see the chat or anything. Steve, let me know if there are any other questions.
Yep, we'll be watching it. Everything's good right now.
Okay, cool. So I was just, as I was mentioning, we can identify the users at risk, the number of devices that are at risk, and at what date we identified that the risk was identified. So this is that information, and you can switch it to 30 or custom or see whatever whatever time frame information you're looking for. Going into the OS updates, as you can see, the different operating systems are listed out here with all of the information as to where all the devices from an OS adoption standpoint looks like. You can just get into each of those and get granular information. Quickly moving to security risk. This is again one of the key things from major changes that came in from VMworld. You can now track the threats, the policy risks, vulnerabilities, and see what devices are running into those. And then the threats are, split into different categories. So you can see if it was a policy, it was a malware, it was a credential or an anomaly. And on the basis of that, filter it out and see where each of those errors are lying. Compromised devices, a key element that's needed to be tracked in an endpoint management environment. You do not want compromised devices. Tracking this is important because if at all there are any compromised devices, you want to take actions for them. And then if they are incorrectly listed as compromised, then the actions that are taken, you need to revert them as well. So this is pretty key from a threat standpoint as well.
Real quick, how does it determine that a device has been compromised? Like, what does that mean from the device perspective?
So if you have seen in the UEM portal, right, if you have set up certain policies for your devices, say it needs to be above a certain OS version. If it's not, it cannot get email, or there are identified vulnerabilities outside of this in the OS itself that it should not be getting your company data. So on those bases, if say I am on a OS version which is not supported as per my company standard, my device will be compromised. That is one way, but another thing is also that my device could be stolen. So it might be going against the company policies, or the usage is being tracked, which is not correct. So those are a few scenarios where a device can be compromised. It could be either your inbuilt threshold that you want to keep to maintain the standards, or it could be a stolen device or a logged device or something like that.
Got it. Okay, thank you. I was thinking, when I see compromised, I mean, I go to like there's an active like malware threat on it, but to your point, the device is stolen or doesn't meet some kind of risk threshold.
Like out of compliance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Out of compliance, and also yes, and now this piece detects anomalies and threats as well. So if there is some, as if you can go to the malware, right? If something like that is reported here, that will count as a compromised device as well. Depends on what level it is at. Right?
Thank you.
No problem. All right. So that's pretty much it. Those are the inbuilt dashboards. That's how these look like. If you want to add a dashboard, you can just create a device dashboard here. Hit save. And then this is just like how your dashboard will appear, but then you can add a custom widget or a already existing template. You can just start that. So as I was saying, the employee experience is now a whole new category of its own. So say I want to create one for the devices. I do have the option of that here. I want to see the device name. Then if I do want to filter it by the device make, and then I'll choose that. And also you have how you want to visualize the data. So you can have it vertical, have it lines, or just a simple table as it shows you in the preview here. So we'll just go by vertical, create this one, hit save. And then as you can see, this is available to you now, and then you can hit view and go through all these items here. So it just lists out all the Dell devices for me that I just created.
Sure.
And it'll show up on my dashboard as a new widget right here.
Can you share these dashboards with other people who already have access, so that like create ones versus having the same thing multiple times all over the place?
So the way this works is once your company has Workspace One Intelligence, it's a shared space. So if you are an admin and I am an admin, I can name this like Shaina's dashboard, and you can name it by your dashboard, but it'll be available. Exporting or sharing outside of it, my understanding is that that's not possible.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so we'll go quickly into integrations here. Workspace One Intelligence does give you the option of automating actions, doing a number of integrations. The automation and integration pretty much works hand in hand. Any kind of automation that you may want to set up on your devices or users and trigger actions, the underlying integration is important for you to actually go ahead and do that. So we call them the workflow connectors. I'll just, yeah. So they're called the workflow connectors. By default, we have these three available Workspace One UEM. I'll quickly show how we set these up. But if you want to take action in the UEM itself, you set up this connector. If you want to create a ServiceNow ticket, you can set up this connector. And then if you want to send out information via Slack, then you can set up this integration there. So we will set up the Workspace One UEM. They'll ask you all this information around the URL, the API username, and everything. All this will come from your UEM portal. So we'll quickly open that up.
And this requires hosted UAM, right?
What do you mean by hosted?
Well, if I remember correctly, is Workspace One UEM hosted or on-prem, or is it both?
It's both. So it doesn't matter. It's just the API information that we are taking. The thing to keep in mind is that the intelligence itself is a cloud service that's not really hosted at the customer side, but a UEM is, it doesn't matter either.
Oh, great.
So we'll go into the API information here. And all you need, we need the base URL, which is going to be your REST API URL. And then we need the username and password. The username and password is the admin account username and password that you will have created in the UEM portal. So the username password with which you are logged into your UEM console, you need to create one and have the same for the access for intelligence as that'll be the common point for accessing both. And then the UEM API key is pretty much the API key here. So let me just.
So that API username and password, is that just for this one-time operation, or does that need to be like a service account that the integration uses?
So the API username password is this username right here. So it's not a service account. It's pretty much an admin in your UEM portal.
Got it.
So you just have, anyways, for access to the UEM portal, you will need admin privileges, and getting access to the API information also, you need to be an AirWatch admin. So this is I used this information right here in the username and password.
Okay.
So now, as you can see, it says the status is authorized. So currently used in 0 workflows. So now we're going to go ahead and create a workflow here. That means the automation. Because we have the Workspace One UEM connector integrated correctly, now we do have the option of going ahead and creating an automation. We can create our own, or there are certain pre-created templates here available right now. So I'm just gonna use the passcode not compliant for the UEM. So this is pretty much pre-built. It'll tell you if the enrollment, if the device is enrolled, if it's not complying with the passcode, what kind of action you want to take in Workspace One UEM. So if the passcode is not enabled, you want to install the password profile. You do need to create. So here, if we go. So I created like a demo passcode here that I want to be installed. Yeah, you just need to put in the ID there and hit save. So right now it's disabled because obviously it's not a live environment, but this is how our automation is created. If a device is identified in which there is a problem, the passcode is not identified, it'll go ahead and install the profile that I created here.
Now, what would that profile do in this instance, in this example? So somebody's compliant, password is not compliant. What are our options?
Depending upon how your profile is set up, what this pretty much does is the automation will run and it will identify that your device either does not have a passcode or it's not meeting the minimum passcode requirements, and it'll push this passcode profile with all the rules on the device. And if you've seen an enrolled device, it'll pop up. It won't on the device won't let you go outside of it until you set that passcode with the minimum requirements.
Okay.
And then going back again, all this is installed, but if you are keeping it bare minimum, they're not major passcode requirements there. You always have the option of going back to the dashboards and seeing if the devices are showing compromised or not compromised, showing non-compliant, and then see what's happening and trigger this further. All right. Any other questions? Cool. So similar to the Workspace One UEM connector, you do have the option of doing the ServiceNow or Slack. We'll do ServiceNow quickly. So for the ServiceNow integration, you do need to have a developer instance in ServiceNow. It's open, it's pretty easy. You can just go ahead and create one, and it'll give you your instances URL and the admin username and password. So this is how the dev instance will look like. And in the incidents, as you can see right now, there are no incidents because no integration is done. but we'll go ahead and create that. So for the base URL, we are going to use the instance URL of ServiceNow. And then the username password is going to be the username password of your ServiceNow dev instance. So let me put that in. So now we have ServiceNow authorized here as well. Same thing as previous, we can go in here and create a new template or create a workflow for ServiceNow. So I'll just choose one with only ServiceNow here. So we can use this one of replacing Dell batteries with poor health. These are all the automations are pretty much if-else statement, if-else-then statements. So you have the enrollment status is enrolled and the battery health is less than or equal to 35. And if an instance is detected for this particular statement, then you are able to go ahead and create a ServiceNow ticket. This is the impact, this is the urgency that you can do. So with the integration that we just did, it gives you the capability of actually opening up tickets through these automation flows into ServiceNow. And then in addition to that, you can do the Workspace One integration use here as well to send an email to that particular enrolled user and tell them that your battery health is low. So it's very useful if you use ServiceNow. You can track the incidents here, even if, say, you don't have, if you have different admins for intelligence and different admins for ServiceNow, at least they are able to see the incidents and take actions accordingly. The one I just showed is just, it's not as critical, it's just for poor health, but you could create custom ones depending upon your use case. And the last one being Slack. I will not be able to finish the authorization of this one because it needs some additional permissions. But how it works is we go up with no authentication, and then the base URL is actually a webhook from Slack that is needed. So if you just go to Slack help and search for incoming webhooks for Slack, you will hit this page. And you would need to create a new Slack app. So you can come in here and just give it a name. And then I'm going to choose VMware here, and then I'll just create an app. So this is the thing. The incoming webhooks is the main thing that we need. But we do need to So we need to enable the webhook here for us to actually get the URL. And then I think for us, we do need approval from our admins to add the new webhook. So you can just add a little bit of detail that why are you requiring this webhook information. Submit the request. When it gets approved, you'll get that particular URL. And once you have the URL, you just put that one here and authorize it, and it'll function pretty much similar to how the UEM and the ServiceNow integrations work. You can go ahead and create automations on the basis of that. So like this one, we have the ServiceNow integration, so it shows you all the details here. The Slack connector has not been authorized yet, but if it was authorized, it'll give you options of the messages that you can send in Slack and which group you're sending those messages into. All right. One last thing here. These are all the pre-available connectors here, but you do have an option of adding a custom connector. So how this works is that you will import your Postman collection. The requests in the Postman JSON file are the actions. So it will ask you to upload the JSON file eventually. And after you've done the import of the collections, the actions become available in the automation workflows. I do not have a custom connector, so I'm unable to show this right now, but that option is there as well. That was
real quick on the integrations. Are they kind of back and forth? You know, can intelligence send something into ServiceNow, or ServiceNow send something into intelligence? I just want to make sure that it's working. You know, that it can go both ways.
Intelligence can send incidents to ServiceNow.
Okay.
From ServiceNow, you can't get flags here from ServiceNow. This is more for triggering actions on the basis of what's seen in the intelligence or in the UEM, and then creating corresponding tasks there.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, so any other questions? Okay. One last thing I did want to show here was the Carbon Black integration. You do need to have a Carbon Black connector set up here for triggering all that information. How this is useful is that Carbon Black is a threat detection tool, but it does not have the capabilities of triggering actions on the endpoints which are enrolled with Workspace One. So with the integration of Workspace One as well as Carbon Black, you now as a company have the ability to take actions from the threats or any of the red flags that are detected in Carbon Black itself, and then on the basis of that, take actions here in intelligence on the endpoint. Right now, no other product outside of this can do that because they work separately, threat detection and then endpoint actions. Only Workspace One Intelligence plus the Carbon Black integration can provide that complete package of threat detection plus taking actions on the basis of that threat detection. Same thing, you do need a Carbon Black setup here. I do not have one, but you will. All this information is, if you have a Carbon Black portal, these are pretty simple to get from there. I do have certain demo videos for the items that I was not able to do here because of unavailability of those sources. But I'll be happy to send that over later if you want to see how it actually looks like in real time. And then if you have the Carbon Black setup done correctly, then same way you can come into automations. And Test Drive does have that integration enabled for us to use. So same thing, you can go to automations and then create a new one, which is Carbon Black. So the threat remediation one here, which is already created, it's based on a filter defining what kind of threat type it is, and then it'll remove the profile accordingly. Again, this is just one of the different items that is available. You can add and create a number of them. So create your own or
slow down a little bit on the clicks. I wanted to go back. You had showed something on one of the previous screens. Maybe it was on the connector about the battery life. It was one of the connector ones. There was something about replace Dell battery, and with poor health. And I've seen this actually demoed a couple years ago with Splunk, and it was a really interesting use case, and I don't think VMware back then had it, but especially in retail or in places where you have a lot of people using mobile devices, this is really good to get ahead of problems and extend that that device life, because you're not draining the batteries, you're not having like, you know, a whole drawer full of devices that aren't working because someone just, you know, oh, I gotta, you know, charge it up, you know, get another one. So if we have customers, or you have customers that are working in retail or health, where you're walking around a lot with mobile devices, reports like this are really, really helpful.
Yeah, and to follow on, I mean, I noticed the same thing, but for Zebra devices, right? And so that's heavily used in retail, supply chain, you know, all of those things. So, you know, being able to track that means that you increase productivity and decrease downtime, right? And you don't have warehouse teams not doing anything or running at debilitated performance because they don't have devices that can last long enough. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Jody, because I saw the same thing. I just went to the Zebra first.
Yeah, totally.
When you think about how some of those warehouses, how big they are, and if they don't have charging stations, and you're taking somebody off of what they're doing, and they're having to walk and take 5 minutes to walk and, you know, get a replacement or recharge something and then walk back, you know, you kind of, you know, extrapolate that data. You know, I'm sure there's a bean counter somewhere that will tell you, you know, exactly how much that costs you.
Yeah.
Yep, agreed. I am just looking at the chat, and I apologize for clicking around too quickly. I will try and be slow now, although we're pretty much done here.
You know, actually, could you go back to, you know, where we saw that last one? Because I think when people see those types of the workflows and the use cases, you know, they can kind of, you know, they can kind of draw where they might use those in their own environment. You know, because we talked about the batteries and everything, but there's other ones there that are kind of interesting when you look at them.
Okay.
Yeah, these ones are all out of the box, right? I mean,
yes. So these are pretty much predefined templates that are available here. But as I was going to say, that you do have option of creating your own as well, depending upon which category you're looking at, right? So we're not going into these third-party integrations today, but all these are available as well if you do want to set up granular threat detection and actions on each of them. So yeah, like it's pretty open-ended. Like you can use the predefined ones or create your own, and everything, in the interest of time, that we are touching today are primarily pre-built and very little custom-based integration. But on the basis of APIs and the integrations of them with the third-party products, you can pretty much make the intelligence piece work with any of the third-party products there. Our applications. Yep. Any other questions here? Or do we want to go into any of these or try creating a new one?
Well, could you real quick run through, just go to the integrations and just kind of scroll through those real quick, just so we can see kind of what those options are. It looked like there was quite a few, right? I mean, we see Carbon Black, Lookout, even if you were to just scroll down.
Yeah, so these are all available for you to set up by default.
Got it. Oh, Azure AD, that's fascinating. Cool, thank you for that.
Problem.
So from your perspective, what's like the level of effort, right? We have a customer that has an existing environment. They want to add intelligence on. You know, how much time and effort and, you know, everything does it take to get that going?
So if they just want to play around and see how the product look and feel is, Intelligence does have a 30-day trial. As you can see, I am in one right now. So if you enable the trial, it gives you the dashboards and the automations and integrations as part of that, which is otherwise paid. So I think that is a good starting point to get a feel of what's available, what all you can set up. The getting started page does give you a lot of information around how to set up most of these. It takes you to a tech zone or some videos, which are pretty like hands-on demos that makes it easier for an admin to come and set these things up.
Sure.
Yeah, I think an overview or a review plus this trial period is definitely the starting point if they're looking to adopt it, unless there's a time crunch, of course.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to touch on one last thing here, being the reports. If you have seen the legacy AirWatch UEM environment, this piece used to be part of that, and it still is. But if you do enable intelligence, you can get the reports feature in intelligence as well. The recommendation moving forward is to start using anything related to reports or analytics in intelligence as compared to running the reports in the UEM console. So that's why they've made this available here. Works pretty much similar to how it is in the Workspace One UEM portal. You have the capability of going into the recent activity, figuring out what report it is. And this is actually the test drive portal, so you'll see a lot of tests here. But you can see the name, the time when it was executed, what account is the one that executed on it, and what was the action taken eventually. Also, you can see the sync status and see if there was a data import and track the progress around each of those. So similar to how you used to see reports in the Workspace One UEM portal, at the moment it's available in both the places, but the recommendation is to start the adoption more and more into intelligence, moving on if you aren't already. And then same thing, like any of the other topics we went into, you can add. There are certain pre-built ones you can start off with. You can decide what area you're trying to create the reports on. There are certain items here, or you can just create a custom report, start from scratch, choose a category, and then create a report here. These reports are exportable, again, similar to how you can do it in UEM. But yeah, any questions there? So in a clean environment, this is how it look. You will need to add your reports, add them again, basis of how or what you want to target that. That's pretty much it that I wanted to go through here from an intelligence standpoint. As I said, we wanted to touch base primarily on the already existing items first in this session, so went through that. Any questions? All right.
All right.
Yes.
I think there was a real quick question. I maybe I missed it. Is about scheduling reports.
What's the question?
It just says scheduling reports in the Q&A or in the chat. So I wasn't sure if that had been addressed.
Let me.
Yeah, more like how to or what are our options.
Yes.
So you create a report and then let's see.
Yeah, there is an option of scheduling the reports as well. I'm not sure here in intelligence how I can set it up, but I know that in the UEM portal, there is an option of scheduling the reports. How to, or what are the options? I'll have to get back to you on that. I'm not sure how it works in intelligence.
Great, thank you. That'd be great.
I see it. Yeah, Tina, I guess I'll get you more information on that.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah, I don't see anything in the chat or Q&A, so really appreciate your time here, Shaina. This has been really good.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And again, any questions, concerns, happy to send the demo videos of the items I may have missed. Just let me know.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I'll let everybody go. Have a good rest of your week and a good weekend.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Thanks.